Now to England's task against tiny San Marino. They needed to win by 7 goals, of course, and hoped that Poland could do a job on Holland. England tonight, watched by John Motson.
England in red, San Marino in blue. England needing to win by a 7-goal margin and hope that Poland can do them a favour in Poznan against Holland. I'm sure you're aware now of what's at stake. And Bachoki, number 9, picks the ball up straight away, and San Marino launched the first attack. Oh, and a mistake by Stuart Pearce, and San Marino have scored! I don't believe this. Stuart Pearce tried to pass the ball back to David Seaman. Galtieri, extraordinary start. Forward by Ince. Here he is again. And it's Ince who shoots, and England equalise. Paul Ince scores, and England's faces a little less red now, perhaps. Picking the ball up in midfield, Bonini was appealing to the referee. Ince had the shot, and it beat Benedettini low down by his left hand. And now, goalkeeper Benedettini comes right out to meet Ferdinand, headed back by Ripley. This may be a chance for David Platt. Oh, and the goalkeeper's missed it, and it's been put in. Ian Wright. And England lead 2-1. Goalkeeper in a terrible mess here. Forward by Platt. There's Ferdinand. Did he get a touch? Doesn't matter now, it's going to be another one. Ferdinand does get a touch, and England lead 3-1. It fell nicely the second time for him, and England have gone into a 3-1 lead. England now playing right to left. Ferdinand, number 9. Right in the centre, being joined by Ripley. It's a good ball, there's Wright, and it's in. England go 4-1 up, and suddenly the hopes rise. Ian Wright gets his second. There's Walker coming forward for England, chips it up. Les Ferdinand on this side, he's onside, a chance for England here. Ferdinand goes round his man, squares it, and that's a goal. It's Paul Ince again. Paul Ince has made it 5 for England, 5-1. This was Ferdinand again in the role of provider. The long cross picks him out. Got it down nicely, went round the defender, and Ince is the player who comes in to slide it into the net. His second, and England's 5th. This is Pallister. Oh, and yes, it's in, and it's Wright's hat-trick. Wright's hat-trick making it 6-1 to England. And it's flicked on here by Ferdinand, and Wright finishes it off. And good ball, and a chance perhaps for England to make it 7, and they have. Ian Wright again. Wright scores his 4th goal. Good personal performance by him, certainly, but only a saving grace in a way for the England supporters, because even if England scored another one and made it 8, it's to no avail because Holland have won. But here's Ian Wright of Arsenal, who's found it so hard it seemed to score goals for England, getting his 4th and equalling David Platt's performance against San Marino at home.
No, I mean, I shall be in discussion with officials of the Football Association, as we have been on various aspects over the period of my managership. And what I steadfastly refuse to do is to fuel any of the speculation from comments that I might be making. That is a private thing for the Football Association officials and myself to talk about.
You won't be resigning?
It doesn't matter whether I'll be resigning or not at this particular stage, because the first thing we have to do is discuss the whole situation with officials of the Football Association.
His contract ends next July. Obviously we'll be talking to him. There's no need to rush. There's no pressing urgency about it. What we must do is get it right.
So there will be no immediate decision?
Not as far as the FA is concerned. We will wait to see what Graham wants to say to us within the course of the next, say, weeks, not days, certainly not days. There'll be no imminent decision.
We only managed to take 1 point off both teams, the teams that qualified, and I suppose if you look at it that way, then yeah, the Dutch and the Norwegians deserve to qualify and we didn't. We can look at turning points. For me, the biggest turning point was Holland at home, because effectively we would have put Holland out if we'd have managed to hold on to that lead, and we didn't do.
We lost out on the 2-game series to Norway and Holland, and that's why we're not going.
But what are the lessons of that?
Well, I mean, people will always be looking for lessons for this and lessons for that, and it's always, I think, a very dangerous thing. At the present time, after the Rotterdam defeat, it looked as if we would be struggling to qualify. I mean, the hysteria that's following, simply that about everything that's supposed to be wrong with football, everything that's supposed to be wrong with the game. I don't want to enter into those public discussions at the present time because emotion just takes over. And I've also noted with interest, some of the comments that are being made. And I've said previously, and I say again, you really have to work hard as what is being said for the good of the game or for self-interest.
What I would like you to be asking is ask everybody within the game, managers, chairman, whoever, hand on heart, have they done everything within their power? Have they done everything possible over the last few years to help the cause of the England team? I suspect, David, you will find that the number that can say yes will be relatively small. I think we've all got to get behind the England team. We've got to submerge our differences within the game, players, managers, powerful club chairman, and say, look, this is where we want English football to be. Let's get the structure right with the management of the team and let's get behind them.
Have you had a worse moment in football than this?
Well, I mean, of course you don't, because the point is that everybody with any ambition wants to reach the very top of his profession. And when he gets there, he wants to be successful. And whatever the odds are against, doing that, it still isn't very nice when that's not actually achieved. And of course, it's a very, very, I say low moment. It is a low moment and it's a hurtful one. But, it's a question that you've got to show a great deal of mental toughness, and I think I'm quite capable of doing that.
David Davis conducting those interviews in Bologna tonight, and confirmation that Holland qualified tonight, along with Norway, who had already qualified. Now, Jim, what are we to make about all this? Of course, as has been said in those interviews, England lost it a long time ago, and they lost it at Wembley. I mean, they weren't going to qualify tonight, or it was a long shot, wasn't it?
Yes, it was indeed, and it wasn't really on. I mean, it could have happened, it might have been a miracle, but even if England had struggled through tonight, it wouldn't have altered what we have seen in the matches in which they played to qualify. It wouldn't alter the number of outstanding players, English players, that our league is producing and has produced at the moment. The number of cultured players.
You mean there aren't enough of them?
Yeah, I mean, Gaza wasn't there. You look at the difference in structure tonight of some of the teams we've seen, the Romanian
Hang on a
team
minute.
from top to
the
bottom.
Republic of Ireland have qualified for the World Cup finals, using similar players who play
Yes,
in the
they
English
have.
league, many
Yes,
of
they
whom
have.
wouldn't get in the England squad.
Right, now we go back into a tactical thing, which is another argument altogether. Jackie has been happy to use the style of football that has been successful for lots of managers and clubs in the English league and play it internationally. He's not tried to compromise. Graham Taylor has been caught between the two things. Maybe a fundamental believer in a long ball game, but also under pressure to produce a kind of stylish football that, apart from one or two clubs, we don't see every week in this country. So whatever you do about the England manager, unless you get that breeding ground right, whatever manager it is, he's going to have the same problems. It isn't just a matter of playing less games.
But the system's been the same for a long time. And 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, Bobby Robson got England to the semi-finals, very nearly to the final. Alf Ramsey won the World Cup with an England team. The league was in much the same state as it is now, Terry. I mean, have things changed that much? Is it now impossible to run an England team?
No, I don't think it is. I think that Bobby Robson's side that got to the semi-final, I think was a particularly good group of guys. And if anything, I think Graham might...
And they had some luck.
Well, of course, you've got to have some luck as well, especially when it's a knockout competition. You know, you don't get too many second chances. But people like Beardsley and Brian Robson and Waddle, and I think Graham himself would say perhaps it might have, discarded those a little early, because you look at the teams that's playing, you look at Holland, you look at Koeman and Rijkaard, Gullit, Van Basten, these guys are all experienced players. It's a shame sometimes to lose what they've got, and you're going to, and the younger guys can only gain from the experience that they've got.
What about Graham Kelly's point made in the interview there that the clubs don't help the situation at all? I mean, what do you think about that, Jim?
I think that's absolutely right. And if you ask Terry about Spain, he would tell you that the clubs there, the big clubs, are totally selfish, and that the Spanish team is no different there.
Yeah, but they've qualified.
Well, they have, but on the other hand, their record in recent World Cups has been no better or worse than ours. I mean, you could say that Spain should do better. I mean, they do well in European competitions, but don't necessarily win World Cups. Mind you, it's a good tip. We got a good tip for this World Cup. Put your money on Spain.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's you know, that comes from the inside, from the two gentlemen either side of me here tonight. So I'm going to go out and have a bet when I've finished on that. But it isn't, you know. When you say what can we do about it to make it any different, I come back to my point that the manager is going to be as good as the number of quality players that our league produces. Now you mentioned, all right, Bobby Robson did all right.
Are you saying we don't produce
did
good
we,
enough
let me,
players?
Did we outplay the Cameroons? Did we outplay Belgium?
No,
in
that's
the match
why I
that we
mentioned
won?
an element of luck
All
to
right.
Terry.
In the match against Germany, we did play particularly well for one match and happened to have lost it. So, I mean, I don't think those comparisons are relevant, and I think we're losing sight of the way in which our young players are produced. Things are happening within the Football Association. For years, young schoolboys have not been allowed, professional coaches have not been allowed access to them from the age of 9, when they're capable of assimilating skills without fear. No, but it's not going to be the way from now on. The thing is changing with centres of excellence, where at last they'll be in the hands of top-class coaches, not schoolmasters, from the age of 9.
That's great for the future.
Yeah.
But Terry, let me put it to you. Do you think that the players who are around in the English league now,
no doubt
if you've got the right manager and the right tactics, that you could get success with?
I think Graham Kelly's right. The more help you can get off clubs and everybody that's in the game, the better it's going to be.
Were Spurs helpful to the England team?
I think we've always been helpful. I think we've proved that with Lineker and Gascoigne and so on.
Hey,
I think
not
that's,
to the young England lot you weren't.
Are you saying in this country we haven't got enough
You
good
weren't helpful
players?
to the young
I'm asking you a
England
question. Are you saying they're not good enough to compete at the top end of the market in the European and world football?
Of course we're good enough, and of course we can make better management of the resources that we have. I mean, any manager, that's his job to do it. Whether you're in the 3rd division, whether you're England's manager, you don't pick your resources, you've got them there, and you make the best of what you've got. Yes. And maybe we haven't made the best of what we've got. Jack has made, you know, on results, got a bit of luck, 1 point out of 4 in the last 2 matches,
so we have got
but he's there. He's there.
So we can find the players and we can find a manager if we find the right players and the right manager.
Yeah. So how many players have we got? Right players and right manager. The measurement of our playing skill is, I've said it before, the market for top-class players, the biggest market is in Italy. How many England players are playing in Italy at the moment? Compared with how many Germans, how many Dutchmen, you know, how many Romanians? The market shows the strength of the talent that we're producing in this country, and we've got to teach young players to control a football, be happy in possession of it, in the years where results don't matter. By the time the professional coaches have had hold of players in the past, immediately they're in a league where they've got to win. So they don't make mistakes. So you don't hold the ball in your own penalty area, you get it away.
The newspapers tell me that nobody wants the England manager's job now. Supposing Graham Taylor resigns or is sacked or whatever happens to him, maybe he'll continue, who knows, we don't know yet. Do you go along with that, or do you think there are people out there in your profession, or perhaps your ex-profession, who, for the moment, who would take the job, who would want the job, and who would be reasonably good at the job, bearing in mind perhaps the limitation of players and perhaps the immense pressure from the press?
I think it's changed a lot. I think there was a time not too long ago, where if this job came up, everybody would be grasping at it. But I think
including you, probably.
Everybody. But I think now it's not as attractive as what it was. And I think most guys that have been tipped, and I would say that 90% of them will not want the job.
You were always tipped, but you haven't been tipped lately.
I'm resting. I'm enjoying myself at last.
Would you take it? Would it be a job that would interest you, supposing all things were equal?
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to sit on the fence.
It's a dangerous place to sit.
Anybody who's intelligent enough, you know, not to want the job, you know, is intelligent enough to take it, if you see what I mean.
No.
If you've got that much intelligence, you don't take it.
You need some intelligence to work that out. Leave it with me.
Well, I'd like to make things difficult for you, sitting in that chair, smiling away like that.
You've always done so.
We're all trying to be happy on a night, actually, where we feel very, very sad about the World Cup.
Exactly right.
Because it is a case of the home international, you know, countries not qualifying.
It is only football. It's not war.